What happens if you die in the interface? Is it possible? Does residual data stay in the memory? SAFEMODE, the sequel to Umami's masterpiece of a web series, Interface, both in spirit and quite literally, is an odd piece of art to say the least, with the first 5 episodes focusing more on the oddities of the world inside the interface, and the second half, still ongoing, focusing on the problems of human spirits living within a simulated world. For those of you who haven't watched Umami's original web series, what are you doing? Go watch it. No, not later, right now. Pause this video, go watch it, and then come back. The audacity of some people, sheesh. Anyway, following the end of Umami's series Interface, wherein Mischief, the shape-shifting incorporeal clown, is eaten by the giant baby demon god thing housing the simulated world for spirits. Yeah, this show goes off the rails a bit. We see the interface comatose, but within its mouth, the static of human souls remain. This is where the original Interface series ends, and SAFEMODE begins. As I mentioned, the first 5 episodes are used to introduce the oddities of this world, and the mystery of the invasive virus that is threatening the artificial balance. Of course, it's not a mystery to those of us who have watched the series. You have now, haven't you? But that mystery proved deadly for our protagonist, Smear. And that's how we got to the episode in question today, SAFEMODE, Episode 7, Split Apart. The description reading that quote from earlier will keep this idea in mind while exploring. The video opens to a very familiar sight, the broken remnants of Dreamland, somehow transposed into the virtual world of the interface. My best guess is that this was brought into the world along with the memories of Mischief when he was devoured by the interface's godlike baby shell. Butterflies encircle the remnant, signifying change and rebirth, something that is clearly about to happen. The scene is transposed in black and white. Smear, correlating with these ideas, states,
"The color drains from my face while I lie here, bleeding out hallucinations. Backups await, should I choose to cross fate. But if consequence has no consequence, my purpose has no purpose."
Clearly, Smear is still pondering the questions brought to his mind along his journey. Nothing in this digital world is real. There are no true goals, true consequences, or events. Everything is precise, calculated, artificial, safe. Nature's very essence has been replaced by the sole perspective of perfection from the viewpoint of creator Mr. Greetings. Even death has lost its purpose. As Smear stated, he will merely be restored from a backup, losing his current self to a stored base should he pass away in the interface.
A silhouette dances across a cold, damp wall. I recognize it as a man. I recognize it as me.
This idea reflects back on the idea of Plato's cave, and the all-too parallel of seeing shadows of true things from our perspective. This rings especially true in the artificial world of the interface. A butterfly in the interface is only code representing a true butterfly, and grass is only as real as the programming allows it to be. It's real to those experiencing these things, but only because it represents a concept we understand from the outside world.
A version of myself, cast by light from a higher plane. A natural world. One where blood matters, did matter, is matter. Am I really living here? Am I really dying?
This concept in Plato's cave represents the soul, and the higher meanings of life we interpret as nature. In the interface, this is merely reflecting the fact that the spirits trapped within the system were once living beings from the true world that is being replicated artificially in code. Next we see who we can only assume to be an unaltered Mischief within a tower marked by a heart. a common symbol for the female clown Mischief cared for. The female clown that the ringmaster refused to allow Mischief to be with. This was the driving force behind the tragedy of Dreamland. Mischief assumed she burned with Dreamland, although the female clown did escape the fire. With the child, we can only assume to be hers. In the next scene, we see that Greetings Robotics has located the comatose baby, and a model of the interface is displayed. We enter this model to continue where we last left off, with Smear having been injured and in grave peril.
What are you happy about? Restore a backup of yourself. What's wrong with you?
Lana,
I know about the backups. They taught me about it in school.
you don't understand. If I did that, I wouldn't retain anything since my last backup. I wouldn't learn anything. I'd be doomed to repeat my own mistakes. Doomed to live here forever.
And therein lies the problem in restoring oneself. While it may be a means of escaping one's death, you wouldn't learn anything from your mistakes. And as Smear stated, be doomed to repeat your mistakes. Doomed to live here forever on loop. Souls weren't meant to live in a pattern so precise, repetitive, and perfect as machines and programs are. The two simply aren't compatible with the addition of free will. This is why Mr. Greetings, now within the interface, is considering wiping out the free will nature of those within the interface to perfect it fully. But is that even living at that point? The souls will be reduced to programs, a human's perspective of what something above their understanding should be. It erases the humans completely. What's the point? This isn't an artificial heaven. It's hell, to be frank. Next we see poor Snooze Button speeding down the road, not knowing where to go to escape the chaos and find help for Smear, not knowing how to help him at all.
Someone's got their foot on the gas. They don't know where they're going. Just accelerate.
This leads to more clues into what the flower named Snooze Button represents. It's the lulling pattern we often find ourselves in, barely awake, floating through life in a pattern designated to us by society, moving ever forward, faster and faster without a destination, to fuel a system that doesn't have our interests at heart. We, too afraid, too comfortable, or too tired from living in the system to seek another option, an unknown route, opting to instead live in a fabricated fashion and continue to press the snooze button, so to speak. What a perfect analogy of the interface itself. Smear shatters the floor. Puzzle pieces fly in random directions, representing the pieces of himself lost to the interface, scattered among the memories of the others that now live in it, floating into the nothingness of the static, alone, and yet surrounded by the spirits of everyone here, drowning in the swirling vortex of all the mysteries surrounding and engulfing him.
I'm grasping for what little identity I have.
Smear says while grasping at the wound he sustained at the club.
I'm nothing without my experiences. That's all we are, Lana.
What?
We're nothing but experiences.
Smear has come to realize a core principle of existence. We are not merely of the flesh and spirit, but are a culmination of our experiences as well. This reflects on the modern reality of our world. More and more experiences are being had in the virtual world of the internet, as we lean towards online friendships and online games over real-world counterparts. How many people who love to watch sports choose a digital counterpart over participation in the real-world equivalent? Sure, you may play the video games and play basketball in real life, but more and more people are opting to play the virtual version of things over the real thing. This even extends to love, with online dating growing more and more prevalent, not to mention the AI dating simulations and robotic partners that are becoming more and more popular by the year. What are we losing by experiencing these things within our very own interface over the physical world?
Smear! You're more than that!
Lana exclaims, expressing how his prolonged presence means more to her than experiences that can be had with him. Or alternatively, since Smear uses the dismissive language of, we are nothing but experiences, She could be alluding to the idea that we are more than just base energy and matter that is experiencing different things, but have unique reactions to the experiences. We are more than the sum of our parts, and that is including what we experience. Makes one think back to the assembly of spirits it took to make the interface deity, doesn't it?
Let me go, little flower girl.
Smear replies, having decided to live what little life he has left in freedom over the programmed sequences that he is instructed to follow. Back in the simulated dreamland, we see a roller coaster climbing the hill, butterflies fluttering over the track, the drop, possibly signifying Smear's death, drawing near. A butterfly lands on Smear's hand, signifying the change that will be coming from his actions. He enters a tunnel in dreamland, his shadow cast upon the wall, appearing as a heart, displaying the fact that his mind is now synced with Mischief's, and he's ready for his freedom. Smear just misses the roller coaster before the train takes off. The coaster speeds down the track laid out for it, breaking boards as it speeds ahead, resisting the lack of free will, no longer speeding purposelessly, but with intent. Intent on breaking free of the tracks. And with that, Mischief makes his grand reveal in the interface. The agent of free will and chaos is here at last, his nose comically breaking every board that binds him to the track. Smear's multiple faces align. Just before the walls come crumbling down, Smear runs from the chaos so as to not be crushed by the collapsing structure. The sun, which often represents Mischief, exuding beams in the shape of hearts. His refusal to do what he is told, and strive for love shining through the artificial order being forced upon him. He approaches Smear as a worm, the first stage in reaching the desired butterfly of transformation. He asks Mischief to identify himself, and Mischief refuses, only referring to himself as Worm, the form he had chosen for himself, just before being eaten and absorbed into the interface. This also symbolizes a type of computer virus, known as a worm, that wiggles its way into the system and breaks it down from the background in a very similar fashion.
We are in the cells of random access memory. Nobody's supposed to be here. You either have kernel-level access, or you died and are a phantom of residual data, about to be overwritten at any moment.
Now that's interesting. So this black and white world is random access memory. Basically, it's a place where all of the information is stored, where it is processed and then sent out into the world. How in video games there are areas with all the elements that could be added into the game, pre-rendered to save time and memory, that are simply waiting to be loaded in. And it seems that in the interface this type of world also exists, where elements and spirits are stored to be reformatted and sent into the interface. This is how the spirits' backups are made and used, a copy of them forever stored in the core memory.
If you're not a phantom, then how did you survive down here?
You're quite an inquisitive fellow. Did you know planarian flatworms can regenerate after being cut up into pieces? Upwards of 20 pieces or more.
I'm gonna cut you into 20 pieces if you
But
don't.
then there would be 20 of me. And only one of you.
He says this as a sort of veiled threat. He then raises the question.
Did you know? Each of those planarian flatworm slices retain their memories. How do they keep those memories without their brains? Is it some sort of cellular memory function? Similar to the random access memory that you spoke of?
Mischief is hinting at the spiritual energy of souls and how they retain memories without their bodies, the energy of life itself being what truly lives. The electrical impressions from the brain having written our personalities into the electrical fabric of our living energy. Or is it the other way around? Mischief then asks,
Makes you wonder. If a slice of life can be cut off like a piece of cake, why can't they be put back together too? Those memories retained, would they blur together? Would they make your identity whole?
and while he is most likely referring to the spirits and their physical forms in this instance, one could argue that he is talking about uniting the three faces of Smear, but I suspect he's also talking about the overriding process of the random access memory zone and how it overlays over dying spirits to restore them to where they were before, begging the question, do the old memories remain, or do they blur together? Or are they just lost forever? And just a quick note, it took me a little while to figure this out. But the smear we see speaking with Mischief in this black and white core world of the random access memory is more than likely the backup smear that is currently waiting to overwrite the dying smear in the overworld interface. My first thought was maybe this was after Smear died, and this was his residual memory waiting to be overwritten, or a piece of his conscious that had broke off while he was dying. But the way that he describes this world, I believe this is his original self, or his original programmed self. More on that in a separate smear video.
What would happen if you were split apart? Separated from your own flesh and blood?
Is he suggesting that the souls can be put back into the bodies, or that the bodies can be reformed and the souls can be placed back into them? Or is he simply discussing the fact that maybe the souls can be restored back to form and no longer be integrated with programs within the interface? Leaves a lot to think about. Now this part is extremely interesting. Remember these soldiers from Episode 4, Temporary Paralysis? Perhaps Smear's car? The ping pong ball? The Bluetooth speaker? This lady? How about Lana, her flower, and Butthead twin brother? Let me theorize here for a moment. Using the information provided in this video, it seems that the realm of the core, or kernel, stores elements from the memories of the spirits it takes in, and uses these elements to build portions of the interface, perhaps to bring a sense of realism and familiarity to the world of the interface. I assumed this only extended to places and things, but it seems that the interface sometimes imprints AI into the elements as part of the citizenship, perhaps as a monitoring system? Because I don't think the world would need NPCs per se, but maybe those to keep balance within the artificial world. This is also keeping in mind that there are sentinels within the world of the interface. Now I don't know if they were taken and reprogrammed, or if they just applied for the job, and that part of the programming was added to their data. But the fact that Smear doesn't recognize his sister tells me that he's been overwritten, and that even if it was voluntary at first, he has now completely been changed by the interface. So I suppose the interface could change these items into actual living beings as well. I personally think this addition was due to Mischief's integration into the realm of the core, and that these elements are revolutionaries designed by Mischief to set the realm free. Just as a virus reprograms and replicates, I believe that Mischief is doing this through the core realm, and is sending these living shadows and act as his hands and feet, or avatars, as allowing himself to enter the interface fully would expose him to a reboot and reprogramming. My other theory concerns the true identity of Smear, as revealed here. Smear is Lana's twin brother, but how can that be? He is so much older than her. Well, one path we could travel down is that Lana passed away before Smear, passing away as a child, and her spirit remained a child on Earth until it was hunted down and placed within the interface, along with the other spirits. The other path would be a bit more convoluted, but symbolically tracks. What if Smear is a combination of people? The triple face design is almost identical to this painting depiction of Jesus, called the Three-Faced Trinity, painted anonymously during the first half of the 17th century, and represents how Jesus, a part of the Holy Trinity in Abrahamic belief, is believed to be all of God in the flesh. He, being the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, could be mirrored in Smear, being the Father, Smear and Lana's father, the Son, Lana's twin brother, and Holy Spirit, being the leading partition AI coding that makes Smear an agent for the interface. After all, what would be considered more holy to Mr. Greetings than a purified AI robot that serves the interface? Or it could be a combination of the father, son, and mother, though Lana's mother is mentioned in the beginning of safe mode. So the AI partition makes more sense to me. Regardless, if Smear is a combination of people or not, the multiple faces must represent Smear's inner identity of being a twin, his spirit struggling for identity and independence from his assigned job within the interface. This episode thickens the overarching plot quite substantially, and brings back to the spotlight the reason that I cherish Umami's work so deeply. It's the love of art, symbolism and mystery, the layers that allow one to delve as deeply as they want into the darker mysteries, but the storytelling skill and artistry that allows one to enjoy the frivolity and whimsy of the worlds in which he creates. Umami is a once-in-a-lifetime artist, and I'm excited to look deeper into his works as the series Safe Mode continues. I will be back with more Safe Mode soon, but until then, remember to keep your eyes wide open and never stop reading. Goodbye.